Her 70-year-old eyes twitched as she watched him walk through the garden archway, silver-haired, distinguished, and wearing that same crooked smile that had stolen her heart 51 years ago. The world tilted. Because standing 10 feet away, adjusting his cufflinks at her granddaughter's wedding, was Leo Mitchell, the man she'd abandoned at a train station in 1974 with nothing but a tear-stained letter and a shattered promise. Welcome to Maya's Romance Tales, where love always wins. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel if you end up liking this story. Hannah Foster had perfected the art of forgetting over 5 decades. She'd buried memories beneath yoga classes, book clubs, charity galas, and 27 years of a respectable marriage to Richard Foster, a good man who'd given her stability, comfort, and absolutely nothing that made her pulse race. Richard had been gone 3 years now, and Hannah had convinced herself she'd lived a full life. Then came Sophie's wedding invitation. Her granddaughter, bright, fierce Sophie, was marrying Thomas Mitchell. Hannah had thought nothing of the surname until she'd Googled the groom's family and seen the father's name listed in the wedding party, Leonardo Mitchell, chairman of Mitchell & Associates architecture firm. The phone had slipped from her hands. That night, she'd pulled out the shoebox from the back of her closet. Inside lay a single photograph, 2 teenagers on a beach, Hannah's head thrown back in laughter, Leo's arms wrapped around her waist. Summer 1973. The summer before everything fell apart. Now, standing in the manicured gardens of the Riverside estate, watching him move through the crowd with that familiar confident stride, Hannah felt 19 again, terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. Grandma. Sophie materialized beside her, radiant in her rehearsal dinner dress. You look pale. Are you okay? Hannah forced a smile. Just the heat, darling. Come meet Thomas's family properly. His dad's been asking about you, apparently you're from the same hometown. Every instinct screamed run. But Sophie was already gently pulling her forward, and suddenly Hannah was face to face with Leo Mitchell for the first time in 51 years. He'd aged beautifully. The sharp jawline had softened slightly, his dark hair had turned silver, but those green eyes, God, those eyes were exactly the same. They widened the moment he saw her. Hannah. Her name emerged rough, like he'd dragged it from somewhere deep. Hannah Winters. Foster now, she corrected automatically. Hannah Foster. Sophie glanced between them, delighted. You two know each other? We grew up together, Leo said smoothly, though his eyes never left Hannah's face. A lifetime ago. How incredible. Dad, you never mentioned knowing Grandma Hannah. Some memories, Leo said quietly, are too precious to share casually. Hannah's chest constricted. Sophie was called away by the wedding planner, leaving them alone in a bubble of tension and unspoken history. You look, Leo started. Don't. Hannah's voice came sharper than intended. Please don't make this harder than it already is. Harder for who, Hannah? Because I've had 51 years to imagine this moment, and I still don't know what to say to the woman who disappeared from my life like smoke. You know why I left. I know what your letter said. I never understood it. A waiter passed with champagne. Hannah grabbed a glass, needing something to do with her hands. We can't do this here. Not at Sophie's wedding. When, then? You planning to vanish again after the ceremony? The bitterness in his voice was justified. Hannah had earned every ounce of his anger. But she couldn't handle this, not the memories flooding back, not the way her heart hammered just standing near him. I'm staying at the Riverside Hotel, she said finally. Room 412. Is that an invitation? It's a conversation we should have had 5 decades ago. Leo studied her face like he was memorizing it. I'll be there. 9 o'clock tonight. He walked away before she could respond, leaving Hannah alone with her racing thoughts and the ghost of who she used to be. Flashback, 1973. 19-year-old Hannah Winters was supposed to marry Preston Montgomery III. Her parents had arranged it, a merger of old money families, a union that would secure the winter's declining fortune. Preston was handsome, educated, proper, and completely wrong for her. Then she'd met Leo Mitchell at the county fair. He was 21, working construction to pay for night classes in architecture. He had grease under his fingernails, dreams bigger than the small town could contain, and a smile that made Hannah forget every rule she'd ever been taught. Their romance was a secret rebellion. Stolen moments at the beach, midnight drives in his beat-up Chevy, kisses that tasted like freedom and danger. Leo drew blueprints for impossible buildings and whispered promises about the life they'd build together. Hannah had never felt so alive, so seen, so completely herself. But Preston was patient zero of her parents' expectations. And when they discovered Hannah sneaking out to meet that construction boy, her father had been clear: marry Preston or be disowned. Her mother had wept, saying Hannah was throwing away her future for a fantasy. Leo had begged her to run away with him. He had a job offer in California, enough money saved for train tickets and a fresh start. Hannah had said yes. Then, the morning they were supposed to leave, her mother collapsed. Heart attack. Critical condition. Her father stood at the hospital bedside and told Hannah that stress had caused this, stress over her reckless choices. She'd written the letter through tears, left it at the train station, and married Preston Montgomery 6 months later. She never looked back because looking back would have destroyed her. Present, hotel room. At 8:55 p.m., Hannah checked her reflection for the 100th time. She'd changed outfits 3 times before settling on a simple navy dress. Her hands shook as she applied lipstick. This was insane. She was 70 years old, a grandmother, a widow. What was she doing, primping for a man she'd abandoned half a century ago? The knock came at exactly 9 o'clock. Hannah opened the door. Leo stood there in jeans and a white button-down, jacket slung over his shoulder. He looked real and devastating and nothing like the safe fantasy she'd allowed herself to remember. "Permission to come in?" he asked. "Or should we have this conversation in the hallway?" She stepped aside. He entered, and suddenly her spacious hotel room felt impossibly small. "Can I get you something?" "The minibar." "Hannah." He turned to face her. "I didn't come here for small talk." She nodded, perched on the edge of the armchair. Leo sat on the couch across from her, maintaining careful distance. "You married him," Leo said. It wasn't a question. "I did." "Was he good to you?" The question surprised her. After everything, Leo's first concern was whether she'd been happy. Tears pricked her eyes. "Preston died in a car accident 3 years into our marriage. I remarried eventually. Richard was kind. Steady. He passed 3 years ago. Children? 2 daughters. 4 grandchildren. Sophie's the oldest." Hannah twisted her hands in her lap. "You. I married once. Diane. Good woman, loved me as much as I could let her. She died 8 years ago. Pancreatic cancer." Leo's voice was matter-of-fact, but pain flickered across his face. "We had Thomas. He's everything." Silence stretched between them. "I'm sorry," Hannah whispered. "For the letter. For not showing up. For all of it. Your mother's heart attack. I heard about it eventually." Leo leaned forward. "I convinced myself that was why you didn't come. That you'd had no choice. I didn't think I did. She almost died, Leo. My father said it was my fault, that I'd nearly killed her with my selfishness. How could I leave after that? So you sacrificed yourself instead. It wasn't that simple. Wasn't it?" Leo's voice rose slightly. "You were 19, Hannah. They manipulated you, used your guilt as a weapon. And you let them." Hannah stood, anger flashing through her grief. "You have no idea what that time was like. The pressure, the expectations, the weight of everything they'd invested in me. I know what it's like to love someone who chooses everyone else. Leo stood too, closing the distance between them. I know what it's like to build a life around a ghost because the real thing chose duty over love. That's not fair. None of this is fair. His voice cracked. Do you know what the worst part was? Not losing you, it was never knowing if you regretted it. If you ever thought about me. If what we had meant anything real or if I'd imagined the whole damn thing. How can you even ask me that? Hannah's voice broke. You were everything, Leo. Everything I wanted and everything I couldn't have. I thought about you every single day. Every birthday, every anniversary, every milestone, you were there in the back of my mind like a song I couldn't forget. Then why did you give up on us? Because I was a girl who didn't know how to fight yet. Because I believed them when they said you'd resent me eventually, that love wasn't enough, that I was being naive. Tears streamed down her face now. I was wrong, Leo. I was so wrong, and I've regretted it for 51 years. The confession hung between them like shattered glass. Leo reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his calloused thumb brushed a tear from her cheek. The touch sent electricity through her entire body. I never stopped loving you, he said quietly. I buried it, built a life over it, but it never went away. And now you're standing in front of me, and I'm 70 years old, and I have no idea what the hell I'm supposed to do with that. Hannah's breath caught. His hand still cupped her face, and she leaned into it without thinking, a muscle memory 50 years dormant suddenly awakening. This is crazy, she whispered. Probably. My granddaughter is getting married to your son. That does complicate things. A hint of that crooked smile appeared. But I stopped caring about complications around the time you walked into that garden wearing that blue dress. Hannah laughed through her tears. It's navy. I'm 70, Hannah. Everything's blue. And just like that, the tension shattered. They were laughing, crying, holding on to each other like teenagers who'd been separated too long. Leo's arms wrapped around her, and Hannah pressed her face into his chest, breathing in cedar and nostalgia. What do we do now? She asked against his shirt. I don't know. But we have a whole wedding weekend to figure it out. She pulled back to look at him. The rehearsal dinner's tomorrow night. People will talk if we let them talk. I've wasted 51 years caring what people think. His expression turned serious. But I need to know something, Hannah. Is this just closure for you? One conversation to ease old guilt before we go back to our separate lives? The question was fair. Hannah searched her heart for the truth. What she felt standing in Leo's arms wasn't nostalgia. It was present tense, urgent, terrifying. Like discovering a missing piece of herself she'd learned to live without, painful and essential in equal measure. I don't know what this is, she admitted. But it's not just closure. Something fierce and possessive flashed in Leo's eyes. Good. Because I'm not letting you disappear again without a fight. Leo. I mean it, Hannah. I know we're old. I know it's complicated. I know we're supposed to be sensible and accept that some chances are gone forever. He tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his gaze. But I'm not sensible where you're concerned. I never have been. Her heart hammered against her ribs. We barely know each other anymore. Then let's fix that. This weekend. No more running, no more hiding. Just you and me figuring out if there's something here worth fighting for. It was reckless. Impractical. They were too old for grand gestures, too set in their ways to upend their lives for a second chance that might not work. But looking into Leo's eyes, Hannah felt 20 years fall away. She felt brave and reckless and completely alive. Okay, she whispered. Okay. This weekend. Let's see what happens. Leo's smile could have powered the entire hotel. He pulled her closer, and for a moment Hannah thought he might kiss her. Instead, he pressed his forehead to hers, breathing her in like he was memorizing the moment. "I should go," he said finally. "Before I do something that scandalizes Sophie before her wedding." Hannah laughed, reluctantly stepping back. "Probably wise." At the door, Leo turned. "Hannah. Tomorrow at the rehearsal dinner, save me a dance. I haven't danced in years." "Good. Neither have I. We can be terrible together." After he left, Hannah sat on the bed, her entire body humming with energy she hadn't felt in decades. She picked up her phone and almost called her daughter before realizing she had no idea how to explain this. Instead, she pulled out the old photograph from her suitcase. Two kids on a beach, wrapped in each other, believing love could conquer anything. Maybe, Hannah thought, they'd been right all along. The next evening. The venue for the rehearsal dinner was elegant, string lights woven through trees, tables set with cream and gold linens, a live band playing soft jazz. Hannah arrived early, nerves making her punctual. Sophie rushed over immediately. "Grandma. You look stunning." Hannah smoothed her emerald dress self-consciously. She'd spent an embarrassing amount of time getting ready, curling her hair, applying makeup with a careful hand. Ridiculous behavior for a 70-year-old woman. "Where's Thomas's father?" Sophie asked casually. "I wanted to seat you two together since you're old friends." "That's thoughtful. He mentioned you used to be close. It's so sweet that you're reconnecting." If only Sophie knew how close. Hannah spotted Leo across the garden, deep in conversation with the groom. He caught her eye and winked, actually winked, and Hannah felt herself blush like a schoolgirl. "Get it together," she scolded herself. "You're 70 years old." But when Leo excused himself from the conversation and started walking toward her with clear intention, age became irrelevant. She watched him move, still strong, still confident, still looking at her like she was the only person in the room. "Hannah Foster," he said, offering his arm. "May I escort you to dinner?" "People will notice," she murmured. "I'm counting on it." They walked to their assigned table, seats positioned side by side, Sophie's well-meaning interference obvious. As Leo held out her chair, his hand brushed her shoulder, sending shivers down her spine. Dinner was torture in the best way. They maintained appropriate conversation with other guests, but underneath the table, Leo's knee pressed against hers. Each point of contact felt electric, dangerous, perfect. "So you two grew up together?" asked Margaret, Thomas's aunt. "How wonderful to reconnect." "Hannah was my first love," Leo said simply. No shame, no hesitation. The table went quiet. Hannah's eyes widened. "Really?" Margaret looked delighted. "And you just happened to meet again at your grandchildren's wedding? How romantic." "Life has interesting timing," Leo agreed, his eyes locked on Hannah's face. She kicked him gently under the table. He smiled innocently and took a sip of wine. The band shifted to slower music. Couples drifted to the dance floor. Leo stood, offering his hand. "I believe you promised me a dance." "I made no such promise." "Then I'm asking. Hannah Foster, will you dance with me?" Everyone at the table was watching now. Refusing would create more speculation than accepting. At least that's what Hannah told herself as she placed her hand in his. The dance floor was crowded enough to offer some privacy. Leo pulled her close, proper distance but intimate enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. "You're causing a scene," she whispered. "I'm dancing with a beautiful woman at a wedding. Hardly scandalous." "Leo, people are staring." "Let them." His hand tightened on her waist. "I've spent 50 years being appropriate, Hannah. Being sensible. Doing what was expected. I'm done with all that." The music swelled around them. Hannah relaxed slightly, letting him lead. He was a better dancer than she'd expected, smooth, confident, clearly practiced. Diane taught you, she guessed. Yes. She loved dancing. No pain in his voice, just gentle memory. You would have liked her. She was kind. Patient. Everything I needed after. After I broke your heart. After we broke each other's hearts, he corrected. I'm not blameless, Hannah. I pushed too hard, demanded too much. Expected you to choose me over everything else in your world. You had every right to expect that. I loved you. And I loved you enough to let you go when you asked. His eyes held hers. But I'm not letting you go this time. Not without knowing if we still fit. Before Hannah could respond, the song ended. Sophie and Thomas appeared beside them, glowing with happiness. That was beautiful. Sophie exclaimed. You two looked so natural together. Old habits, Leo said smoothly. We used to dance quite a bit in our youth. Thomas grinned at his father. I've never seen you dance like that, Dad. You looked happy. Something shifted in Leo's expression. I am happy, son. For the first time in a very long time. The weight of that statement settled over Hannah like a blanket. She excused herself, suddenly needing air, and escaped to the garden's edge. Leo found her 5 minutes later, standing beneath a willow tree. Running already? He asked gently. Thinking. About? Hannah turned to face him. About how unfair this is. We get this second chance, but it comes wrapped in complexity. Our families are about to merge. If we pursue this and it falls apart, we don't just hurt each other, we hurt Sophie and Thomas, potentially ruin their wedding memories, create awkward family gatherings for years. And if we don't pursue it, we stay safe. Appropriate. We smile politely at family events and wonder what might have been. Leo stepped closer, his voice dropping. I've spent 51 years wondering what might have been, Hannah. I'm not signing up for more of that. Not when you're standing right in front of me. But what if we're wrong? What if this is just nostalgia, and the people we are now don't actually fit? Then we'll find out. Together. He cupped her face in both hands. I understand you're scared. Hell, I'm terrified. But I'm more terrified of walking away without trying. Leo. I'm going to kiss you now, he interrupted softly. If you don't want that, tell me to stop. Hannah's breath caught. Every rational thought screamed that this was too fast, too public, too risky. She didn't tell him to stop. Leo's lips met hers with devastating gentleness. The kiss was soft, searching, nothing like the desperate teenage kisses they'd shared decades ago. This was patient, thorough, a man taking his time to relearn something precious. Hannah melted into him, her hands fisting in his jacket. The world fell away, the wedding, the complications, the 51 years between then and now. There was only this, Leo's mouth on hers, his hands cradling her face like she was something sacred, the taste of wine and promise. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Leo rested his forehead against hers. Still think this is just nostalgia? He asked roughly. No, Hannah admitted. Definitely not nostalgia. Good. Because Hannah Foster, I'm falling in love with you all over again, and I don't think I can stop it. Panic and joy warred in her chest. This is crazy. Crazy's better than safe. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Come back to the party. Dance with me again. Let's be 70 and reckless and see where it takes us. Hannah looked at this man, this beautiful, impossible, persistent man who'd waited half a century and still wanted her. Who looked at her not as a grandmother or a widow but as Hannah, the girl he'd loved and the woman she'd become. Okay, she whispered. Let's be reckless. His smile was devastating. He laced his fingers through hers and led her back to the party, not caring who saw, not hiding what was building between them. As they rejoined the celebration, Hannah caught Sophie's eye. Her granddaughter was watching with blatant curiosity and what looked like approval. Hannah would have explaining to do later. But for now, she had a second chance dancing in her arms, and she wasn't letting go. The morning after. Hannah found Leo at the hotel cafe at 7 a.m., already nursing coffee and reading the newspaper like he'd been waiting. Couldn't sleep either, she asked, sliding into the chair across from him. Kept replaying last night. His eyes crinkled. Particularly the part under the willow tree. Leo. Before you panic and try to rationalize this away, let me say something. He set down his coffee. I know we're moving fast. I know it's complicated. I know all the very sensible reasons we should slow down. But Hannah, we don't have time for slow. We're 70. How many years do we have left? 10. 20 if we're lucky. I'm not wasting a single one of them playing it safe. Hannah's throat tightened. You're right. We're not 20 anymore. No. We're better. We know who we are, what we want, what matters. We've loved and lost and survived. We don't have to figure ourselves out, we just have to figure out if we fit together now. And how do we do that? Spend time together. Real time, not just wedding events. I want to know 70-year-old Hannah Foster. What makes her laugh, what keeps her up at night, what she dreams about. I want to know if the woman you became still connects with the man I am. Hannah studied him, this confident, direct man who knew exactly what he wanted and wasn't afraid to ask for it. So different from the boy she'd known, yet somehow exactly the same. The wedding's tomorrow, she said. Then everyone goes home. You're in Seattle, I'm in Boston. How exactly do we spend time together? Come to Seattle. Stay for a week. Meet my friends, see my life, let me show you who I am now. No pressure, separate hotel rooms if you want. Just time. Leo, I can't just uproot my life. Why not? What's holding you in Boston that can't wait a week? The question stopped her cold. Her book club met on Tuesdays, but Betty could manage without her. Her volunteer work was flexible. Her daughters were grown with their own lives. She had literally nothing urgent waiting except routine and habits she'd built to fill the void Richard left. Hannah trailed off. Leo leaned forward. When was the last time you did something spontaneous? Something just for you, not because someone needed you or expected it. I don't remember. Then do this. Take a chance. See where it goes. His hand covered hers on the table. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow, Hannah. I'm asking for a week. 7 days to see if this feeling is real or if it's just two old people caught up in memories. Every practical bone in her body screamed no. This was reckless, impulsive, the kind of thing young people did, not respectable widows with grandchildren and responsibilities. But looking at Leo's face, seeing the hope and vulnerability there, Hannah felt something shift inside her. She'd spent 51 years being practical. Being responsible. Doing what was expected. Look where that had gotten her. Okay, she heard herself say. 1 week. Leo's expression blazed with joy. Yeah. 1 week in Seattle. Separate rooms. No expectations beyond getting to know each other. I can work with that. He stood, pulling her up with him. Dance with me. What? There's no music, Leo, we're in a cafe. But he was already pulling her into his arms, swaying gently to nothing but the ambient sounds of breakfast service. Other patrons stared. Hannah should have been embarrassed. Instead, she laughed, free and genuine and completely unexpected. Leo spun her carefully, mindful of creaky joints but graceful nonetheless. You're insane, she said against his shoulder. Only about you. They danced until the barista started clapping, then collapsed into their chairs, grinning like fools. This week, Leo said seriously. I'm going to show you what life could look like, Hannah. Not what we lost, what we could still have. And if at the end of it you want to go back to Boston and your book clubs and your routine, I'll drive you to the airport myself. No hard feelings, just gratitude for one more week together. And if I don't want to leave? His eyes darkened with promise. Then we'll figure out what comes next. Together. Are you falling in love with Hannah and Leo's romance story? Hit that like button and subscribe to Maya's Romance Tales for more stories where love always finds a way, no matter how much time has passed. The wedding day. Sophie's wedding was perfect, sunshine, tears, laughter, everything a wedding should be. Hannah sat in the second row, trying to focus on her granddaughter's happiness instead of the distinguished silver-haired man 2 rows back. She failed spectacularly. Every time she glanced over her shoulder, Leo was watching her. Not the ceremony, not his son, her. The intensity of his focus made her skin tingle. During the vows, when Sophie and Thomas promised forever, Hannah felt tears slip down her cheeks. Not just for the young couple, but for the forever she and Leo had been denied. For all the years lost to fear and duty and trying to do the right thing. As if sensing her thoughts, Leo appeared beside her as guests moved toward the reception. He didn't speak, just offered his handkerchief and a gentle hand on her lower back. They're beautiful together, Hannah managed. They are. Reminds me of 2 kids I used to know. His thumb traced circles on her spine. We should have had this, Hannah. 50 years of family, memories, growing old together. I know. But we can't change the past. We can only choose what happens next. He turned her to face him, oblivious to the crowd flowing around them. Come to Seattle. Give us a real chance. I already said yes. Say it again. Let me hear you mean it. Hannah looked into his eyes, those green eyes that had haunted her dreams for 5 decades, and felt something settle into place. Yes, Leo. I'll come to Seattle. I'll give us a real chance. His smile could have lit the entire venue. Okay then. Let's get through this reception without causing too much gossip, and tomorrow we start our second chapter. The reception was a blur of champagne and dancing and watching Sophie glow with happiness. Hannah danced with her sons-in-law, her grandsons, and 3 times with Leo, not caring anymore who noticed or what they thought. Near midnight, as the party wound down, Sophie pulled Hannah aside. So, her granddaughter said with a knowing smile. You and Mr. Mitchell seem very friendly. Hannah's cheeks warmed. It's complicated. Grandma, I've watched you 2 all weekend. That's not complicated, that's 2 people who are crazy about each other and trying not to show it. Sophie squeezed her hand. I think it's wonderful. You deserve to be happy. We barely know each other anymore. Then get to know each other. You're both single, clearly still have chemistry. Sophie's eyes sparkled with mischief. Unless you're worried about what people will think. Because I learned from my very wise grandmother that life's too short to care about other people's opinions. Hannah laughed despite herself. Did I say that? All the time. Usually when encouraging me to follow my heart. Sophie hugged her tight. Follow yours, Grandma. Please. You've spent your whole life taking care of everyone else. Take care of you for once. After Sophie left, Hannah found Leo on the terrace, loosening his tie and watching the stars. Escaping? She asked. Thinking. About tomorrow. About how terrified I am that you'll change your mind and decide Seattle's too far and I'm too much trouble. Hannah stepped beside him at the railing. I won't change my mind. Promise? I promise. She took a breath. Leo, I need you to understand something. I'm not the girl you knew. I'm 70 years old. I have arthritis in my hands, I take 6 medications daily, I forget names constantly. I'm set in my ways, stubborn, and I've lived alone for 3 years and gotten comfortable with it. Okay. I'm scared that you've built me up in your head as this perfect lost love, and the reality of who I am now will disappoint you. Leo turned to face her fully. Hannah, let me tell you what I see. I see a woman who raised daughters on her own after her first husband died. Who married again for stability and made it work for 20+ years. Who volunteers at hospitals, dotes on her grandchildren, and still has the most beautiful laugh I've ever heard. He cupped her face. I see someone who survived heartbreak and loss and kept going. Someone strong and real and absolutely terrifying in the best way. That's who you are. That's who I'm falling for. What if we try this and it doesn't work? Then we'll have tried. But Hannah, what if it does work? What if we get this miracle second chance and build something incredible? She wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that at 70, love could still be this simple and overwhelming and right. 1 week, she said. We'll see what happens in 1 week. 1 week, Leo agreed. Then, can I kiss you goodnight? Properly this time, not hiding under a willow tree. Hannah's answer was to close the distance between them. This kiss was different, deeper, more knowing, full of promise and possibility. Leo's arms wrapped around her, and Hannah pressed into him, memorizing the feel of his heartbeat against hers. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Leo rested his forehead against hers. Seattle, he murmured. Tomorrow afternoon. I'll pick you up at noon. Okay. Hannah. Yes. I'm not letting you go this time. Whatever it takes, wherever this leads, I'm in completely. Fear and hope tangled in her chest. So am I. Seattle, Day 1. The flight to Seattle felt surreal. Hannah kept expecting to wake up, to discover this entire weekend had been some elaborate dream. But Leo's text confirming her arrival time was real, the boarding pass in her hand was real, and the nervous flutter in her stomach was definitely real. She'd told her daughters she was extending her trip to visit an old friend. Not technically a lie, though Catherine had given her a suspicious look over FaceTime. An old friend, her youngest had asked. Since when do you have old friends in Seattle? Since always. We just reconnected at the wedding. Mom, you're being weird. I'm 70. I've earned the right to be weird. Now, walking through baggage claim at Seattle-Tacoma Airport, Hannah spotted Leo immediately. He stood near the exit holding a sign that read, Hannah Winters, in bold letters, that crooked smile firmly in place. Trying to embarrass me already? She asked, reaching him. Absolutely. He took her carry-on, then kissed her cheek, casual, natural, like they'd been doing this for years. How was the flight? Long, full of second thoughts. And now? She looked at him, really looked. He wore jeans and a navy sweater, silver hair slightly mussed, eyes bright with anticipation. He looked real and solid and exactly like what she needed. Now I'm here, she said simply. His smile widened. Yes, you are. Come on, let me show you my city. The drive into Seattle was filled with easy conversation. Leo pointed out landmarks, shared stories about building his architecture firm from nothing, asked about her daughters and grandchildren. It felt comfortable, natural, like slipping into a favorite sweater. I booked you a suite at the Fairmont Olympic, Leo said as they navigated downtown traffic. But full disclosure, my condo is only 10 minutes away. Not pressure, just information. Separate accommodations was the deal. I'm a man of my word. He glanced at her. But I'm hoping you'll spend most of your time at my place anyway. I want to cook for you, show you my drafting studio, introduce you to my weird obsession with vintage record players. You collect record players? 6 of them. Thomas thinks I'm insane. Hannah laughed. That's actually kind of charming. Wait until you hear them. Then decide if it's charming or annoying. At the hotel, Leo insisted on walking her to her suite. It was beautiful, panoramic city views, elegant furnishings, a soaking tub that immediately called to her aching back. "This is too much," Hannah protested. "It's perfect. You deserve perfect." He set down her luggage. "Unpack, rest, take a bath. I'll pick you up at 7 for dinner. Dress comfortable, we're going somewhere special." "Leo." He silenced her with a quick kiss. 7 o'clock, Hannah Foster. "Don't keep me waiting another 51 years. After he left, Hannah collapsed on the bed, her heart racing. This was happening. She was actually doing this. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sophie, "How's Seattle? Is Mr. Mitchell being a gentleman?" Hannah smiled and typed back, "Too early to tell. Ask me in a week. That's my grandma. Have fun. You deserve this." Did she? Hannah stared at the ceiling, wrestling with decades of guilt and duty and the persistent voice that said she didn't deserve happiness after abandoning Leo all those years ago. But then she remembered Sophie's words, "You've spent your whole life taking care of everyone else. Maybe it was time to take care of herself." First date, evening. At exactly 7 p.m., Leo knocked on her door. Hannah had changed 4 times before settling on black slacks and a cashmere sweater, elegant but comfortable. Leo's expression when she opened the door made every minute of indecision worth it. "You're stunning," he said. "You're biased." "Absolutely. Doesn't make it less true." He offered his arm. "Ready?" The restaurant was intimate, a small Italian place tucked into a quiet neighborhood, clearly a local favorite. The owner greeted Leo by name and winked at Hannah with obvious approval. "I've been coming here for 20 years, Leo explained once they were seated. "Best osso buco in Seattle, and Maria's tiramisu will change your life." Over wine and appetizers, they talked. Really talked, not the careful small talk of the wedding weekend, but deep, honest conversation about the lives they'd lived apart. Hannah told him about Preston's death, the shock of sudden widowhood at 22 with a baby. About meeting Richard at a charity function, marrying him for stability and growing to genuinely care for him, even if it was never the consuming passion she'd felt for Leo. "Did you love him?" Leo asked quietly. Hannah considered the question carefully. "I loved who he was and what he gave me. Security, partnership, a father for my daughters. It was a good marriage, Leo. Not what we had, but good in its own way. I'm glad. You deserved someone who treated you well." "What about Diane?" Leo's expression softened. "I met her 5 years after you married Preston. I was 31, throwing myself into work, determined to prove I could be successful without the Winters family approval." He smiled ruefully. "Diane was a client's daughter. Sweet, patient, willing to accept my emotional unavailability. I told her up front I'd loved someone else, that part of my heart wasn't accessible. She said she'd take whatever I could give. That's heartbreaking." It was honest. "And over time, I did love her. Different than how I loved you, but real. She made me laugh, supported my dreams, gave me Thomas." His eyes held Hannah's. "I tried to be a good husband. I think I mostly succeeded. She was lucky to have you. I was lucky to have her. But Hannah," he reached across the table, taking her hand. "I need you to understand something. I'm not with you because Diane's gone and I'm lonely. I'm with you because you're you. Because in 51 years, I never stopped wondering about the girl who got away. And now that you're here, sitting across from me, you're even more incredible than I remembered." Hannah's throat tightened. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Say exactly the thing I need to hear." "I just tell you the truth." His thumb traced patterns on her palm. "That's all I want from you too. Honesty. No games, no pretending. We're too old for that nonsense. Their entrees arrived, osso buco for him, seafood risotto for her. The food was exceptional, but Hannah barely tasted it. She was too focused on Leo, the way he gestured when excited about a topic, the crinkles around his eyes when he smiled, the unconscious way he kept reaching for her hand. Over Maria's legendary tiramisu, Leo asked, "What scares you most about this?" "Us, I mean." Hannah appreciated the direct question. "That I'll disappoint you. That the reality of building a life together will be nothing like the fantasy we've both carried. That we'll realize we're strangers who happen to share a past." Valid fears. My turn. Please. I'm terrified you'll wake up one day and realize you gave up your entire life in Boston for someone you barely know anymore. That you'll resent me the way I convinced myself you must have resented that ultimatum your parents gave you. He set down his fork. I'm scared that I'm being selfish, pulling you into my world without considering what you're giving up for it. I'm not giving up anything that matters, Hannah said quietly. That's what I realized on the plane. My life in Boston is comfortable, but it's not alive. I go through motions, fill time, wait for grandchildren to visit. I'm existing, not living. And what do you want? The question hung between them like a dare. I want to feel something, Hannah admitted. I want to wake up excited instead of just grateful to have woken up. I want to laugh until my stomach hurts and take risks and stop being so damn careful all the time. Leo's eyes blazed. I can give you that. All of it. If you let me. How can you be so sure? Because you already make me feel that way. He stood, pulling her up with him. Come on. There's something I want to show you. The studio, night. Leo's condo was everything Hannah expected, modern, masculine, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. But he didn't let her linger in the main living area. Instead, he led her down a hallway to a closed door. This is my sanctuary, he said, hand on the doorknob. Only Thomas and Diane ever saw this space. I'm trusting you with something important here. He opened the door, and Hannah gasped. The room was a drafting studio, huge windows, multiple drawing tables, shelves lined with architectural models and supplies. But what caught her attention was the wall covered entirely in sketches and blueprints. Beach houses. Dozens of them, all slight variations on a theme. What is this? She whispered. Leo moved to stand beside her. Every year on August 15th, the day we were supposed to leave for California, I draw a house. Our house. The one I told you I'd build for us on the beach. Hannah's hand flew to her mouth. August 15th. The day she'd left that letter at the train station. 51 houses, Leo continued softly. Each one a little different, incorporating new styles I learned, features I thought you might like. This one, he pointed to a recent sketch. Has a widow's walk because I remembered you loved watching storms from high places. And this one has a library with built-in window seats because you always said you wanted to be surrounded by books. Tears streamed down Hannah's face. Leo. I know it's crazy. Borderline obsessive. But it kept you alive for me. Every year I'd tell myself, this is the last one. Time to let her go. And then August would roll around and I'd start sketching again. Hannah turned to him, overwhelmed by the evidence of his enduring love. You built a life around a ghost. Not a ghost. A hope. He cupped her face, wiping away tears with his thumbs. And now you're here. Real and complicated and so much better than any fantasy. Show me, Hannah whispered. Show me which one is your favorite. Leo led her to the far corner, to a blueprint more detailed than the others. This one. Drew it 5 years ago, after Diane passed. It's 2 stories, lots of windows, an open studio upstairs. Room for family but private enough for 2 people who like their space. There's a garden for you, I remembered you loved growing tomatoes. And a workshop for me where I can tinker with my record players. Hannah studied the drawing, seeing not just a house but a life. A future she'd thought was lost forever. It's perfect, she breathed. It's ours. If you want it. Leo's voice was rough with emotion. I own land on Whidbey Island. Been holding on to it for years, telling myself I'd build a retirement house eventually. But Hannah, I want to build this. With you. For us. The magnitude of what he was offering hit her like a wave. Not just a relationship, but a life. A home. Everything they'd been denied. That's too much too fast, she managed. Then we'll take it slow. But I'm putting the dream on the table so you know what I'm hoping for. I'm not playing games or keeping my cards close. I want a life with you, Hannah Foster. However much time we have left, I want to spend it with you. Hannah couldn't speak. Couldn't process the intensity of his declaration. So instead, she kissed him. This kiss was different, urgent, desperate, 51 years of longing poured into a single moment. Leo backed her against the wall, hands tangling in her hair, kissing her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. Hannah, he gasped against her mouth. We should stop. Why? Because I promised to be a gentleman. Separate rooms, no pressure. I'm 70 years old, Leo Mitchell. I'm way past caring about being proper. She pulled him closer. I've wasted enough time. I don't want to waste another second. His control snapped. He kissed her thoroughly, completely, until they were both breathless and clinging to each other. Stay, he whispered. Not for. I just want you here. Fall asleep next to me. Let me wake up knowing you're real. Hannah nodded against his chest. Okay. They moved to his bedroom, tasteful, masculine, with a king bed that looked incredibly inviting. Leo lent her a t-shirt and disappeared to give her privacy. When he returned in sleep pants and nothing else, Hannah's mouth went dry. 70 or not, the man was attractive. They climbed into bed on opposite sides, maintaining careful distance. Then Leo laughed. This is ridiculous, he said. Come here. Hannah scooted across the mattress. Leo pulled her against his chest, her head tucked under his chin, his arms wrapped securely around her. Better, he murmured into her hair. Much better, Hannah agreed. They talked in the darkness, sharing memories, dreams, fears. Leo told her about the heart attack he'd had 3 years ago, the wake-up call that made him reevaluate everything. Hannah confessed her terror of becoming irrelevant, of being just grandma instead of Hannah. You could never be irrelevant, Leo said fiercely. You're the most vital person I know. You barely know me anymore. Then let me learn. Every day, every conversation. I want to know everything, Hannah. What you have for breakfast, what you think about before falling asleep, what makes you angry, what makes you laugh. That's a lot of information. We've got time. Starting now. Hannah turned in his arms to face him. In the moonlight filtering through the windows, his face was silvered and beautiful. I'm falling in love with you again, she admitted. Terrifyingly fast. Good. I'm already there. How can you know so quickly? Because I never fell out of love in the first place. I just buried it. His hand traced her cheekbone. You're not a stranger, Hannah. You're the person I've been waiting for. My heart recognized you the moment I saw you at that wedding. That's incredibly romantic. I'm a romantic guy. Ask anyone who knows me. He smiled. Actually, don't. I've spent 50 years pretending to be practical and cynical. You bring out a side of me I thought was dead. Hannah kissed him softly. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on us. For drawing those houses. For being brave enough to ask me to Seattle. She pressed her forehead to his. For giving me a second chance at living. Always, Hannah. Always. They fell asleep tangled together, two 70-year-olds acting like teenagers, not caring about anything except being close. Day 2. Hannah woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. For a disoriented moment, she didn't know where she was. Then she saw Leo's side of the bed, rumpled but empty, and remembered. Seattle. Leo's condo. She'd stayed the night. She found him in the kitchen, making pancakes and humming to jazz playing from one of his vintage record players. He wore reading glasses pushed up on his head and had flour on his cheek. "Good morning," she said from the doorway. Leo turned, his face lighting up. "You're awake." "I was trying to be quiet." "You were humming." "Was I?" He grinned sheepishly. "Old habit. Diane used to say I hummed when I was happy." "And are you?" "Happy?" Deliriously. He gestured her over. "Come taste this batter." "I think I nailed it." Hannah moved into his space, letting him feed her a fingerful of pancake batter like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. "Perfect," she pronounced. "You're perfect." He kissed her forehead. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I have in years." "Good. Because I have plans for us today, and you'll need energy." The plans turned out to be a tour of Seattle, Pike Place Market, the Space Needle, the waterfront. Leo held her hand through all of it, pointing out favorite spots, introducing her to vendors who knew him by name. At the market, he bought her fresh flowers and insisted on carrying them. On the waterfront, they shared fish and chips and watched ferries cross the Puget Sound. At a bookstore in Capitol Hill, he found a first edition of her favorite novel and bought it without hesitation. "You're spoiling me," Hannah protested. "That's the plan. I have 51 years of birthdays and Christmases to make up for. Leo, you can't buy me presents for every year we missed. Watch me." That evening, he cooked dinner at his place, salmon with roasted vegetables, claiming he'd learned from Thomas, who'd inherited Diane's cooking skills. They ate on the balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in oranges and purples. "Tell me about your daughters," Leo said. "Everything. I want to know the people you raised." So Hannah told him, about Catherine, her eldest, who'd become a doctor and married a wonderful man who worshipped her. About Jessica, the artist who'd struggled to find herself but was now thriving in Portland with her wife and 2 kids. "They'd like you," Hannah said. "Catherine would give you the 3rd degree, make sure your intentions are honorable. Jessica would paint us and call it a romance for the ages. I want to meet them. When you're ready." "That's a big step." "We're 70, Hannah. Every step is a big step. But I meant what I said, I'm all in. That means meeting your family, introducing you to mine, building a real life together." Hannah set down her wine glass. "You keep saying that. Building a life together. But we haven't talked logistics. Where we'd live, how we'd navigate the distance, what happens when this week ends." "You're right. Let's talk logistics." Leo leaned back, all business suddenly. "I can work from anywhere, architecture is mostly digital these days. My firm is established enough that I don't need to be in the office daily. Boston or Seattle or anywhere in between, I'm flexible. I can't ask you to leave Seattle." "You're not asking. I'm offering. Hannah, I don't care where we live as long as we're together. We could split time between cities, buy a place in the middle, move to Paris, whatever works for us." "You're serious." "Completely. But I need to know what you want. Not what you think you should want or what's practical. What does Hannah Foster want for the next chapter of her life?" The question settled over her like a challenge. What did she want? She wanted this, Leo across from her, making plans like they had unlimited time. She wanted mornings waking up next to him, evenings cooking together, lazy Sundays exploring new places. She wanted the beach house he'd drawn, wanted to pick out furniture and argue about paint colors and plant tomatoes in their garden. She wanted to stop being careful and start being alive. "I want us," she said simply. "However we make it work. I want to build something real." Leo's smile could have powered the city. "Then we will. No more wasting time, no more playing it safe. We're doing this. My daughters will think I've lost my mind. Probably. Mine will too." He reached for her hand. "But we're not doing this for them. We're doing it for us." Day 4. They'd fallen into an easy rhythm, mornings at Leo's condo, afternoons exploring Seattle, evenings talking until they couldn't keep their eyes open. Hannah had stopped going back to her hotel after that first night. There was no point maintaining the pretense of separate accommodations when all she wanted was to fall asleep in Leo's arms. But on the 4th day, reality intruded. Hannah's phone rang during breakfast. Catherine's name flashed on the screen. "I should take this," Hannah said apologetically. "Of course. I'll give you privacy." Leo kissed her temple and disappeared into his studio. Hannah answered. "Hello, darling." "Mom." Catherine's voice was tight. "Sophie told me you're in Seattle with Thomas's father. What's going on?" "So much for easing into this conversation. I'm visiting an old friend." "An old friend you're apparently living with?" "Mom, Sophie said you two were inseparable at the wedding. That he looks at you like, well, like more than a friend." Hannah closed her eyes. "It's complicated." "Complicated how?" "Mom, you've been widowed for 3 years. If you're dating someone, that's wonderful, but you could have told us." "I'm not dating someone." "I mean, I am, but it's not." Hannah took a breath. "Catherine, I knew Leo when I was 19. We were in love. I was supposed to run away with him, but I chose to marry Preston instead. We haven't seen each other in 51 years until Sophie's wedding." Silence on the other end. "Then, you're kidding." "I'm not." "Mom, that's insane. You're telling me you reconnected with your first love at a wedding and now you're what, playing house in Seattle?" The judgment in Catherine's voice stung. "I'm exploring a second chance with someone who matters to me. Someone who's always mattered." After 4 days. "Mom, you don't even know this man anymore." "I know enough. And yes, it's fast, but Catherine, I'm 70 years old. I don't have time to date for years before knowing if this is real." More silence. Hannah heard muffled voices. Catherine was talking to someone else, probably her husband. "I'm concerned," Catherine said finally. "This doesn't sound like you. You're practical, careful. You don't make impulsive decisions. Maybe it's time I started. Or maybe you're lonely and caught up in nostalgia." "Mom, I love you, but this sounds like a recipe for heartbreak." "It might be," Hannah admitted. "But I'm willing to risk it." "Why? What's so special about this guy that you're willing to upend your entire life?" Hannah looked toward Leo's studio, where he was probably pretending not to listen while actually hearing every word. "Because he sees me," she said quietly. "Not as a grandmother or a widow or someone's mother. He sees Hannah, the person I am and the person I still want to be. And Catherine, I haven't felt seen like that in decades." Her daughter's anger softened slightly. "You really care about him." "I love him. I probably never stopped." Another long pause. "I want to meet him. Before you make any major decisions, I want Jessica and me to meet this man and make sure he's worthy of you." "Catherine. Non-negotiable, Mom. If he's going to be in your life, he's part of our family. We get to vet him properly." Despite everything, Hannah smiled. Her daughters, protecting her even now. "Okay. I'll arrange something. Soon. Not in 6 months when you've already moved to Seattle or wherever." "Soon," Hannah promised. I love you, Catherine. Love you too, Mom. Even when you're being crazy. After hanging up, Hannah found Leo in his studio, pretending to work on a blueprint. You heard, she said. Thin walls. Sorry. He set down his pencil. Your daughter's protective. I like her already. She wants to meet you. Both daughters do, apparently. To vet you properly. Good. I'd be worried if they didn't care. Leo stood, pulling Hannah into his arms. I want to meet them. Show them I'm serious about their mother. This is moving so fast. Too fast. Hannah considered the question honestly. By any reasonable standard, yes, it was too fast. They were talking about building a life together after less than a week. It was impulsive, risky, possibly foolish. It was also exactly right. No, she said. Not too fast. Just right. Leo's expression blazed with joy and relief. Yeah. Yeah. She stretched up to kiss him. But we should probably have a plan before my daughters descend. Catherine can be intimidating when she wants to be. I'll win her over. I'm charming. You're confident. I'm in love. Makes me brave. That afternoon, they made plans. Catherine and Jessica would visit Seattle the following weekend. Leo would book a restaurant, show he could be appropriate and serious. They'd present a united front, show Hannah's daughters this wasn't a whim but a genuine relationship. What if they hate me? Leo asked that night in bed. They won't. But what if they do? What if they think I'm taking advantage of you or moving too fast? Hannah propped herself up on one elbow. Leo Mitchell, are you nervous? Terrified. Your daughter's opinion matters. If they think I'm wrong for you, then we'll prove them wrong. She kissed him softly. Together. Day 6. The beach house on Whidbey Island took Hannah's breath away. Leo had driven them up on Saturday morning, claiming he wanted to show her something special. The property was stunning, 3 acres overlooking the water, trees providing privacy, the sound of waves constant and soothing. This is where I want to build our house, Leo said, leading her to a clearing with perfect water views. Right here. Exactly according to the blueprints I showed you. Hannah turned in a slow circle, imagining the structure, the life they could build here. It's perfect. You mean it? Leo's voice held uncertainty. Because I know it's far from Boston, far from your daughters. Leo. Hannah stopped his rambling with a hand on his chest. It's perfect. But are you sure? This is a huge commitment. I've never been more sure of anything. He pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box. Hannah's heart stopped. Before you panic, Leo said quickly, this isn't what you think. Well, it is, but not exactly. He opened the box to reveal a simple gold ring with a small sapphire. This was my grandmother's. She left it to me when I was 18, told me to give it to the woman I'd love forever. Leo. I bought an engagement ring for you in 1974. Saved for 6 months, chose it carefully. After you didn't show up at the train station, I threw it in the ocean. He smiled sadly at the memory. Dramatic, I know. But this ring, I've kept it for 51 years, and I always knew who it was meant for. Tears streamed down Hannah's face. I'm not asking you to marry me, Leo continued. Not yet. We need time, we need your daughter's blessing, we need to figure out logistics. But Hannah Foster, I'm asking you to choose me. Choose us. Choose this life we could build together. Wear this ring as a promise that you're all in, the way I am. That's basically a proposal. It's a promise. A commitment. A declaration that I'm done living half a life without you. He took the ring from the box. So what do you say? Will you choose me, Hannah? Choose the beach house and the record players and the life we should have had 51 years ago. Hannah looked at this man, this beautiful, persistent, wonderfully impossible man who'd waited half a century and never stopped loving her. Who drew houses every year on the anniversary of her greatest regret. Who saw her not as she'd been or as she should be, but as she was, flawed and scared and desperate for one more chance at real love. Yes, she whispered. God help me, yes. I choose you, Leo Mitchell. I choose us. He slipped the ring on her finger, a perfect fit, like it had been waiting there all along. Then he kissed her, and Hannah felt 51 years of regret and longing finally release their hold. They stayed on the beach until sunset, making plans. They'd split time between Boston and Seattle initially, giving Hannah time to transition her life. They'd start building the house in spring, creating exactly the home they'd dreamed of. They'd tell their families together, face the questions and concerns as a united front. My daughters are going to lose their minds, Hannah said, leaning against Leo's chest. Probably. But they'll come around when they see how happy you are. How do you know I'll be happy? Because I'm going to spend every day of the rest of my life making sure you are. He kissed the top of her head. That's my job now. Making Hannah Foster deliriously, ridiculously happy. That's a big responsibility. I'm up for it. I've been training for 51 years. Day 7. Catherine and Jessica arrived on Sunday afternoon, a united force of protective skepticism. Hannah met them at the hotel, her hotel, the suite she'd barely used, to give them time to talk privately before introducing Leo. Mom, Catherine said immediately, spotting the ring. What is that? A promise ring. From Leo. Jessica's eyes widened. After 1 week. After 51 years, Hannah corrected gently. We're not rushing into anything. We're just acknowledging what's always been there. The sisters exchanged looks. Catherine spoke first. Mom, we're worried. You've known this man less than a week in 50 years. That's not enough time to make major life decisions. I agree. Which is why we're taking it slow. Splitting time between cities, figuring out logistics, getting to know each other again. Hannah sat down, gesturing for them to join her. But girls, I need you to understand something. I loved your father, both of them. Preston was my first husband, my partner in raising you, Catherine. Richard was steady and kind and gave us all stability. But Leo was your first love, Jessica finished softly. Like in a romance novel. Like in real life, Hannah corrected. He was the person I was supposed to build a life with. And yes, we lost 50 years. But do you know what I learned? Life is too short to play it safe. I've been playing it safe since I was 19, and it's gotten me a comfortable existence but not joy. Not passion. Not this feeling like I'm finally living instead of just existing. Catherine's expression softened slightly. You really love him. I do. And I'd like you to meet him. Really meet him, not just at the wedding. Let him show you who he is. Dinner that night was at Canlis, elegant, expensive, Leo's way of showing he could be appropriate and serious. He wore a suit, arrived early, stood when Hannah and her daughters entered. Catherine's assessment was immediate and thorough. Jessica was softer but no less protective. Leo handled both with grace, answering their questions honestly, sharing his own concerns about moving too fast, acknowledging their right to be skeptical. I know this looks impulsive, he said over appetizers. Trust me, if Thomas came home after a week and said he was in love, I'd be having this exact conversation. You're good daughters for protecting your mother. And you're good at deflection, Catherine noted. But here's what I want to know, what are your intentions? Specifically. Leo didn't hesitate. I intend to spend the rest of my life making your mother happy. I intend to split time between our lives, giving her flexibility to be with you and her grandchildren. I intend to build her a house she can fill with whatever makes her smile. And eventually, when the time is right and with your blessing, I intend to marry her." The table went quiet. "You're serious," Jessica said finally. "Completely. I lost her once because I didn't fight hard enough. I'm not making that mistake again." Catherine studied him carefully. "If you hurt her, then I'll have failed at the only thing that matters." Leo's voice was steel. "Your mother is the most important person in my world. Her happiness is my priority. If I ever forget that, you have my permission to remind me." Something shifted in Catherine's expression. She glanced at Hannah, then back to Leo. "Okay," she said. "I'm not saying I'm completely convinced. But I'm willing to give this a chance. On one condition." "Name it." "You keep communicating with us. Updates, visits, honesty about how things are going. You don't shut us out of Mom's life. Deal?" "Actually, I was hoping you'd both visit Whidbey Island next month. Help us design the house, make sure it works for family gatherings." Jessica lit up. "Really? We can help design it?" "Absolutely. It's going to be a family home. Your input matters." By dessert, the tension had eased considerably. Jessica was asking about Leo's architecture firm, showing genuine interest. Catherine was laughing at his stories about Thomas's childhood disasters. Watching her daughters warm to Leo, Hannah felt something settle in her chest. This could work. They could actually build this crazy, beautiful second-chance life. After dinner, as they said goodnight in the parking lot, Catherine pulled Hannah aside. "He's good, Mom. I didn't want to like him, but he's really good." "I know. And you're happy. Genuinely happy, not just going through motions." "I am." Catherine hugged her tight. "Then I'm happy for you. Both of you. Just promise me you'll be careful. Take your time, make sure this is real." "I promise." Jessica joined the hug, creating a three-person embrace. "I think it's romantic," she whispered. 50 years later, still in love. It's like something out of a movie. "It's real life," Hannah said. "Better than any movie." Are you rooting for Hannah and Leo? Show your support by hitting that subscribe button. Maya's Romance Tales brings you love stories that prove it's never too late for happiness. Don't miss what happens next. 6 months later. The beach house was taking shape beautifully. Hannah stood in what would eventually be the living room, watching Leo consult with the construction foreman about window placement. They'd spent the last 6 months splitting time between Boston and Seattle, learning each other's rhythms, building a relationship on more than just nostalgia. It hadn't always been easy. They'd had arguments about money, about family time, about Leo's tendency to make decisions without consulting her and Hannah's habit of overthinking everything. But they'd worked through it. Together. Hannah had gradually transitioned her Boston life, selling her house, moving most belongings to storage, keeping a small apartment for visits with Catherine and the East Coast grandchildren. Leo had restructured his firm, promoting his partner to managing director so he could work remotely. The beach house was their compromise, accessible to both families, big enough for gatherings but intimate enough for two people building a life. "Hannah." Leo called from across the construction site. "Come see this." She picked her way through lumber and tools to where he stood beside the master bedroom window frame. "Look at this view," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Imagine waking up to this every morning. It's perfect. You're perfect." He kissed her neck. "Though you're still not supposed to be on the construction site without a hard hat. Safety regulations. I'm 71. I've earned the right to ignore safety regulations. Humor me. I'd like you around for a while." Hannah turned in his arms. 6 months had only deepened what they'd felt that first week. They'd learned each other's quirks, Leo's tendency to leave cabinets open, Hannah's need for silence before coffee, his snoring, her cold feet in bed. All the small details that made a life together. "Have I told you lately that I love you?" she asked. "Not since this morning. I was starting to wonder." "I love you, Leo Mitchell. Even when you're being overprotective about hard hats." "I love you too, Hannah Foster. Even when you're being stubborn about safety equipment." Thomas and Sophie appeared, navigating the construction site hand in hand. They'd just returned from their honeymoon in Bali, glowing with newlywed happiness. "Grandpa Leo," Sophie called. "The deck is going to be amazing." "Wait until it's finished," Leo said proudly. "We're adding a fire pit for family gatherings." "Are we invited to these family gatherings?" Thomas asked with a grin. "Always. This house is for all of us, kids, grandkids, whoever needs a beach weekend." They spent the afternoon touring the construction, making plans for furniture placement and garden design. Watching the younger couple together, Hannah felt grateful beyond measure. Sophie and Thomas's wedding had given her this, a second chance she'd never expected. A love she'd thought was lost forever. A future that looked bright and full and worth waking up for. That evening, back at Leo's Seattle condo, they collapsed on the couch with wine and takeout. "Your daughters called while you were in the shower," Leo said casually. "Catherine wants to know if we're free for Thanksgiving. Big family gathering at her place, your whole crew and mine, apparently." "That's a lot of people." "It is. You okay with that?" Hannah considered. 6 months ago, the idea of their families mixing would have terrified her. Now it just felt right. "I'm more than okay with it. I'm excited." "Good. Because I already said yes." He grinned at her expression. "What? I'm part of this family now. I'm allowed to accept invitations." "You're impossible. You love it." She did. God help her, she loved all of it, his confidence, his joy, his absolute certainty that they were meant to be together. Later, in bed, Leo pulled out his tablet. "I want to show you something." It was a design sketch, not for the beach house but for a smaller structure behind it. "What's this?" "An art studio. For Jessica. I talked to her last week, and she mentioned missing having dedicated space for painting. I thought we could add this to the property, give her a place to work when she visits." Hannah's throat tightened. "You're building my daughter a studio?" "She's an artist. Artists need studios. Plus, this way she'll visit more often, which makes you happy, which makes me happy. Everybody wins. This man. This wonderful, thoughtful man who drew houses for 50 years and now wanted to build her daughter a studio. "I'm going to marry you," Hannah said suddenly. Leo's eyes widened. "Is that a proposal?" "It's a fact. I'm going to marry you, Leo Mitchell. Soon. Not because we have to or because it's expected, but because I want to. Because you're the best thing that ever happened to me, twice, and I'm not waiting another day to make it official." His smile was radiant. "Hannah Foster, are you asking me to marry you?" "I am." "What do you say?" "I say I've been waiting 51 years for this question, and my answer is absolutely, definitively, yes." He kissed her thoroughly. "When?" "Soon. Small ceremony, just family. Maybe on the beach by the house once it's finished." "Perfect. Though Catherine might have opinions about the planning." "Catherine always has opinions." "We'll manage." Hannah settled against his chest. "We'll figure it out together." "Together," Leo agreed. "I like the sound of that." They lay in comfortable silence, planning a future that had seemed impossible just 6 months ago. Outside, Seattle sparkled with city lights. Somewhere in Boston, Hannah's daughters were probably plotting wedding details. On Whidbey Island, their beach house waited to be completed. And here, in Leo's arms, Hannah felt something she hadn't experienced in 51 years, complete peace. "Hey Leo," she whispered. "Yeah. Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on us. For waiting. For being exactly who I needed when I needed you most." He tightened his arms around her. "Always, Hannah. For you, always." 1 year later. The beach house was perfect, everything they'd dreamed and more. Hannah stood in the kitchen, her kitchen, she still couldn't believe it, preparing Thanksgiving dinner with Catherine and Jessica while Leo and the grandchildren explored the beach. Through the window, she could see him, silver-haired and laughing, Thomas's son on his shoulders, Sophie's daughter holding his hand. Her Leo, fitting seamlessly into their family like he'd always been there. "Mom," Catherine said softly, appearing beside her. "You look happy." "I am happy. Disgustingly, completely happy." "Good. You deserve it." Catherine hugged her from the side. "I was wrong, you know. About moving too fast, being impulsive. This is exactly what you needed. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. Leo's good for you. Watching you two together, it's like seeing you come alive." Jessica joined them at the window. "Did you see the studio he built me? It's incredible, Mom. The light, the space, it's perfect. He loves you girls. Both of you. You're part of the package." "We love him too," Jessica admitted. "It's impossible not to. He's basically a romance novel hero come to life." They watched Leo chase the grandchildren through the waves, his laughter carrying on the wind. Hannah's chest felt full to bursting. Later, after dinner and dessert and hours of family chaos, Hannah and Leo escaped to the deck. The fire pit crackled, stars scattered across the sky, waves providing constant background music. "This," Leo said, pulling Hannah onto his lap, "is what I pictured. Every single time I drew those houses, this is exactly what I imagined. A deck full of food debris and grandchildren's toys. A life full of family and laughter and you." He kissed her temple. "Though I'll admit, the reality is even better than the fantasy." Hannah settled against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady beneath her palm. They'd gotten married in August, simple ceremony on this beach, just family, officiated by a friend of Leo's. Hannah had worn a simple white dress, carried wildflowers, cried through her vows. It was the wedding she should have had 51 years ago. But somehow, having it now made it even more precious. "Do you ever think about what might have been?" she asked quietly. "If I'd shown up at that train station in 1974. Leo was quiet for a long moment. "Sometimes. But Hannah, if you'd shown up, we'd have struggled. We were kids with no money, big dreams, and no idea how hard life could be. We might have made it, but we also might have crashed and burned." "True. Instead, we got this. We got to raise our children, build our careers, become the people we needed to be. And now we get each other, fully formed, knowing exactly what we want, no regrets." He tilted her face up. "I wouldn't change a thing. Because every choice, every heartbreak, every year apart led us right here. And here is perfect." Tears slipped down Hannah's cheeks. "How do you always know exactly what to say?" "I'm a romantic. It's my superpower." He wiped away her tears. "Also, I've had 51 years to practice speeches for when I got you back." Hannah laughed through the tears. "You're ridiculous. And you love me anyway." "I do. So much it terrifies me sometimes." "Good terrified or bad terrified?" "Good terrified. The kind that makes you feel alive." From inside the house, they heard laughter, Catherine telling a story, Jessica's delighted shriek, grandchildren running through rooms. Their family, their life, everything they'd built together. "I have something for you," Leo said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Open it." Hannah unfolded the sketch carefully. It was a beach house, their beach house, exactly as it existed now. But in the corner, dated August 15, 2024, was a note, finally built. Finally home. Finally ours. With love, always and forever, Leo. The last house I'll ever draw, he explained softly. Because I don't have to imagine it anymore. Because you're here, and we're building this life together, and the dream finally came true. Hannah couldn't speak past the emotion clogging her throat. She kissed him instead, deep and slow and full of 51 years of love finally finding its home. I love you, she whispered against his lips. Thank you for never giving up on us. I love you too, Hannah Mitchell. He smiled at the use of her new last name. And I will never, ever give up on us. Not for the rest of our lives. They sat under the stars, wrapped in each other, listening to their family inside and the ocean beyond. Two 71-year-olds who'd found their way back to each other against all odds. Who'd chosen love over fear, risk over safety, second chances over comfortable regret. Who'd proven that it's never too late for love to win. And in that moment, with Leo's arms around her and their whole family under one roof and the beach house standing solid beneath them, Hannah Foster Mitchell knew exactly what happiness felt like. It felt like coming home. Thank you for joining Hannah and Leo on their love story. If this touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in forever love, and subscribe to Maya's Romance Tales for more stories that prove love always wins. Drop a comment below telling us what you loved most about Hannah and Leo's journey. Until next time, remember, it's never too late to choose love. Red Heart.